Hello and welcome to Heart Yoga Radio. We're having another walk through the sunny hills today, and we're a bit late on this particular bit of interesting times because we did do a recording on this a few days ago, but it's it wasn't really very good, so we're doing it again. So we want to just talk about the recent heroism, as I would describe it, of Dawn Butler in Parliament, where she came out and called Johnson a liar and refused to correct the record, as they call it, and reflect upon her comments, and deliberately got herself thrown out of Parliament. And I think this was definitely the way to go, because you've seen other politicians very skillfully call Johnson a liar, but using parliamentary acceptable language, and it has not had the same impact, even though they've pointed out that he is not telling the truth in an incredibly straightforward and demonstrable way. Ian Blackford, he said he disguised it by saying, "Are you a liar, Mr. Johnson?" And he got away with that, and a few others have done similar things, but Dawn Butler needed to be thrown out of Parliament. She needed that shot, the little clip of her being thrown out, and the photographs of her walking down the aisle to leave Parliament on that day, because she needed to create a drama that the press couldn't resist, and that a few hours later, sure enough, she was everywhere. She far more interest in the Johnson is a liar statement this time, because she was willing to get kicked out of Parliament for doing it, than all the other times. And even the right-wing press couldn't resist the story and the drama. And I think that even though they reported it in a negative way, obviously, not supporting her for what she did, it still introduced it into the consciousness of their readers. To say in the future, if your child dies because of Johnson's lies about COVID, and it's all safe now and don't wear a mask, go to the nightclubs, everything's fine, or whatever else happens due to his lies that really severely affects the lives of you or your loved ones, you'll remember this moment. You may think, oh, Dawn Butler, blah blah blah, not interested right now. But later on, you'll think, oh yeah, she came out and called him a liar. I remember it because of the drama. Because of the impact of the drama, it will be there. It went a bit deeper into the minds of the public this time, and I thought she played it really, really well. And I was wondering, and I've been thinking about it for a few days now, what kind of impact this is going to have, and could it be the snowball that starts the avalanche? Because sometimes, it just takes one person to stand up to the tyranny, and be brave. It emboldens others to do the same. So I think that how that is going to affect things from now on is yet to be played out. And I think did that maybe on the last day of Parliament before their summer recess. So maybe there won't be. People are calling it was it the Spartacus mood? Where they all stand up and say Johnson is a liar and then get thrown out, and the next one stands up and shouts Johnson is a liar and gets thrown out. They don't have a chance to do that because Parliament's not in session.
That wasn't going to happen anyway, given the composition of the Parliamentary Labour Party, which is like 75% pink Tories. So couldn't see that happening.
But the discussion was very much around why, and this is what Dawn said herself, and it sparked the discussion everywhere. Why is it that the liars can stay in Parliament and carry on lying, where the ones who point out the lies are kicked out? Of course, obvious question, but it forced the question into the spotlight, which I thought was great.
Yeah, it does seem like a moment when the Teflon let Johnson down at last. Because trying to get any of the shit that they've been doing, they should have been jailed.
Yeah.
Let alone just thrown out of office. You know, we should be having a fucking Versailles moment, 1789 moment. And they just get away with fucking devious, horrible shit time after time after time. And you think, when is anything ever going to stick to these monsters?
Yeah. I suppose something's sticking because they're down in the polls, aren't they? Now?
But that did sort of seem to get through the force field or whatever it is that they got going.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the context of Dominic Cummings turning on them. It's in the context of the Police Federation of England and Wales declaring that they have got no confidence in the Home Secretary, Priti Patel. It's in the context of 70% of the public thinking that the government's made a mistake by removing mandatory mask wearing in England in indoor spaces and on public transport. It's not like it's happening in isolation, it's happening in a context of absolutely abundantly clear incompetence. And there's more than a subterranean rumbling about the amount of money that's pretty well been handed over to their mates out of the pandemic situation, as a direct consequence of the pandemic situation and the financial move that the government has made to help the nation through the pandemic. I mean, it's turned out to be a windfall for some people. And the billionaires that we have in this country have all profited immensely. And a lot of ordinary people and small businesses have been pretty well rendered destitute. So there's a lot of rumbling, subterranean rumbling around that as well. So it's in the context of things not going too great for them, and things aren't going to go great for them because eventually the incompetence has to come home to roost, and it is now coming home to roost.
If the police hate the government, then they're really not doing well, are they?
No. The actual speech that Dawn Butler gave, I mean, she pointed out that, well, we know Johnson Lyons because of Peter Stefanovic's viral video, which has now had 28 million views, documenting Johnson's lies, and he's completely fact-checked. He's never going to get sued for telling lies about it. He's completely fact-checked. And it's a short video of all the lies that Johnson has told, and I mention it frequently. I try my best to get it circulating and get people seeing it. And there's just the lies in Parliament, let alone the lies that go on elsewhere. So that brought a welcome side effect of Dawn Butler's speech, was that it brought Peter Stefanovic's fantastic effort to expose Johnson's lying into just very squarely into the middle of the public consciousness. That is excellent. I'm glad that that's happened as a result of Dawn Butler's speech. And the other thing she pointed out, she says, this lying isn't just a sort of trivial matter, because in the context of the pandemic, it's going to cost lives. So it is a serious matter.
Yeah.
And she was
in interviews later, she used the word dangerous quite a lot of times, which I thought was good to kind of really repeat that word, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and she did get interviewed all over the place. I think Byline interviewed her, but I saw her on Novara. Michael Walker interviewed her, didn't he?
Yeah.
She goes on there occasionally. I mean, I do quite like Dawn Butler, and she was a contender for the leadership or the deputy leadership of the Labour Party. And I kind of listened to what she had to say. She did disappoint me a little bit, because she said she preferred Biden over Bernie Sanders. I thought, well, that's a mistake. It could be down to not being really up to speed on American politics. But that disappointed me. And I mean, Dawn Butler is one of the few parliamentary Labour Party members, one of the few Labour MPs who's actually served in government. And she was a minister under Gordon Brown. She was a junior minister, but she certainly held a ministerial post under Gordon Brown. So she's actually very, very experienced Labour politician. But
so she was absolutely aware of the consequences of her actions, wasn't she?
Of course she was. I mean, you know, Dennis Skinner used to do this all the time. The beast of balls over, you know. He'd say, I do your worst, I don't
Come back, Dennis.
I don't care. I know you're there, bloody toffs on the other side. Dodgy Dave. Dodgy Dave. Take it back, no, it's Dodgy Dave. Everybody knows it. Anyway, of course he got thrown out every sort of 2 weeks or something. He couldn't abide the kind of... Actually, the stupidity of the place. I mean, for me, the thing that it brings out is just the archaic nature of Parliament. And I can understand you might have to have some rules of civility or something, just to stop people from wasting time. But nevertheless, here's a situation that arises in which a lawyer, demonstrable lawyer, gets away with it time and time and time again with potentially dangerous consequences, as Dawn Butler points out. Whereas when somebody points this out as a plain matter of truth, that they have to be chastised. They've broken the rules. You know, and it's interesting because we've got this archaic Parliament. I have a big gripe with the archaism of the British political system. It's like a weight on us. That's why we can't get any kind of socialism going here, you know. The establishment won't allow it. You know, and I do get very impatient, even with people like Peter Stavanovich, when they talk about our democracy being eroded. Well, it's never been a fucking democracy. It's not like we had a democracy and now the Tories are sort of like spoiling it. We've never had a democracy. Never, ever, ever have we had a full democracy. It's not even a fucking quarter of a democracy. And people should stop talking like that. We need to be very clear that we need to establish a proper democracy, and a part of that would be getting rid of some of the archaic shit that they've got. The procedures are just stupid. In fact, Dawn Butler started a petition to make it an offence to lie to Parliament, like a criminal offence.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's out there.
Great. That's really great.
I tried to sign it and the algorithm wouldn't let me sign. There's one of these petition sites, never lets me sign. It says, we will not accept you. I don't know what the fuck that's about. Maybe been nobbled by the CIA or something. But to me, that's very, very significant of how it points up that the archaic system is just loaded. Johnson gets away with murder. Well, he's a scion of the establishment, you know. He's an old boy of one of those stupid schools and fucking, you know. And it's the way they call it tradition as though it was a good thing. I think the system is so archaic that it's positively fucking dangerous, you know. Yet it plays into this modern condition of post-truth, where the truth no longer matters. In fact, hardly anybody in public life's got a concept of truth. You know, a working concept of like legal truth. Not even the fucking judges and the lawyers, when I hear what they have to say, I think, my God, these people have got all this power and they can't even get their head around just this notion of adequation for truth, you know. And I mean, it's an interesting paradox that it's the archaism that reinforces this modern condition of post-truth, you know, where not only does the truth not matter, but nobody with any power has got a proper functioning truth faculty. They're not able to use it as a concept, you know, for what it's meant to do, you know, which is to expose lawyers, you know, and help us to move forward because we know what's happening. People do not move forward through life in a safe and efficient manner without knowing what's happening. In other words, without discerning at least some of the truth and what's going on around them. All this has been completely undermined. And the British archaic political system, as evinced by Dawn Butler's expulsion the other day, it just points that out. I mean, that to my mind, that's the big underpinning issue here. You know, the thing will probably blow over. I think it made a hell of a noise on Twitter. Hell of a noise.
Well, and everywhere, like everyone reported on it, didn't they? Really?
Yeah, I mean,
she was being interviewed everywhere that night.
I mean, even the Daily Mail and the Telegraph and all these other fascist rags all managed to. Well, they were forced to make some space for it. So I think tactically it was pretty good, you know.
Yeah,
I think she knows what she's doing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think so. Because also maybe her timing just occurs to me, because just
great.
before, when we were doing the pre-talk for this podcast, you were talking about how you feel that the mainstream media are starting to turn on the Tories, and if Dawn has been really paying attention to this, then perhaps her timing of basically throwing them a bone to make yet more critical noises about the Tories was quite a good strategical moment.
They've definitely turned on him, and they've been doing it just like hints to start with over the last few weeks, and it's slowly intensifying. So they're not going to do it so it looks like a U-turn. If you really tune your ears in, it's just happening. It's happening all the time, you know.
What particular things are making you think that they're turning on the Tories? And is it more Johnson, or is it the Tories in general?
It's Johnson and his immediate kind of cohort of ministers, his immediate gang of ministers. They don't like them. You know.
Like what particular things have you noticed that were sort of unusual for the mainstream
the way that say Radio 4 Today, you know, which I'd take to be pretty well a megaphone for the establishment, right? Particularly Robinson, who's quite right wing. He's a member of the Tory party, and he's quite right wing. He gets one of their ministers on. He doesn't give him the easy ride he used to. You know, if it's somebody like Gove or Gavin Williamson or somebody like that, they don't get the easy ride that they used to. And they're critical of the Brexit policy. And I suppose in the midst of all this chaos, we should mention there's a lot of negative press. I mean, just the Brexit cock-up, you know, with the fact that there's no lorry drivers and that there will be food shortages by the looks of it. In fact, there are already certain things not appearing on the shelves. And they're trying to blame it on the pandemic, but the real cause... That's a factor, but the real cause is the fact that there's 100,000 too few lorry drivers in the country just to man the supply chains.
Because they sent all the Europeans back.
Well, they sent them all back. They've all gone back to Europe, you know.
And they all cheered. And then it was like, oh, look, but we don't have anyone to get food to the supermarket.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
So that's piling on, and that's intensifying. And I think the press doesn't want to be... They don't want the shit to splash onto their nice shiny suits when it does splash, as it inevitably will. Yeah. And they've described that it inevitably will. They've figured that out. So they're kind of distancing, and it's partly because they're distancing in themselves. But it's also because, you know, there'll be a move to get rid of him from the Tory party in time for a new election. I mean, Dominic Cummings said we only got him in to do the Brexit thing. He says the first day in office we were plotting to get rid of him. This is, of course, the unelected advisors. You know, Cummings is a network of a dozen people who are so kind of narcissistic they think it's their job to run the country.
They gave him plenty of airtime, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Which I found quite surprising.
Of course, they could have just marginalised him.
Yeah.
It's a story.
Just ignored him.
I mean, we need to bear in mind, you know, that the establishment isn't a monolith. They fight amongst themselves. You know, they form factions. And they're definitely, I'm picking it up really, really quite strongly, and it's intensifying. They're definitely going for him. Which Johnson and his immediate half a dozen, you know, officers of state, you know, the Home Secretary, the Foreign Secretary, you know. I mean, Matt Hancock was a bit of a fall guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
They are in trouble, but it's still amazing. They are still ahead in the polls, you know. I mean, they had
only a bit though now.
Well, it was a 13-point lead last week, and now it's like a 3-point lead or something.
So if there was an election today, they could maybe scrape the tiniest of majorities, couldn't they?
Well, it would be a hung parliament.
Yeah.
It would look like, you know, depending on, because they are busy changing the borders, so that they can get away with some shit, you know.
Yeah.
They're bloody criminals, they are, in my honest opinion, Your Honour.
Yeah.
So, in that context, yeah, Dawn Butler, yeah, well, she's been around a long time, and she has had experience in government. She's a very experienced politician. The idea that it was like a fortuitous, I think she's very, very astute on that level by the looks of it.
Also, another interesting point about the lies, and I'm afraid I can't remember her name, a woman who was interviewed on the Byline Times, Byline TV YouTube channel, and she was talking about the function of the lying, and the reason they're so thick and fast, she was saying, is because this always seemed odd to me. Like, you tell one whopper and it's like the next day there's another kind of 3 whoppers, and the next day there's another 3 whoppers. And Johnson does lie in Parliament all the time. And it always amazes me that they just keep them coming. And she reckons the reason is that to push back and to prove that it was a lie. So let's say he tells 5 lies in Parliament. It takes her 2 hours to do the research, make a video or write an article with all the fact checking, proving that it was definitely a lie, and then to upload it onto YouTube or to publish it. It takes so much work and effort that it's just not possible to keep up with it. So that's why they do it so much, because it just ties them up. Ties up all their time and energy trying to disprove the lie, because it's like that old saying, a lie can run around the world before the truth has got its boots on, and that's what it's like. That's why they're getting away with it, because there just isn't enough time and energy in the world to disprove the sheer barrage of lies that come out of them all the time.
Yeah.
So I thought what she said made quite a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in that.
And, the Peter Stefanovic, I mean, he really has done such a good job.
Oh, it's beautiful.
He's done lots of videos. I know there's the video that has really, had a huge amount of views, but he probably puts up at least 1 out a week.
Obviously, he's on his Twitter, he's childish,
Yeah. I mean, that one about the Northern Ireland thing, which is where, I mean, he even does the video of him twice, of Johnson saying, I think it's to Laura Kunsberg, there will be no checks between Northern Ireland and Great Britain and coming the other way. He says it absolutely and totally emphatically twice. It's like he says it. There he is. He's there on telly saying it, and then what have we got? Oh, checks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's how he survived in life, and it's third nature to him. He hardly knows he's doing it. That's how he got by in the dormitories in the bullying environment of a boys' public school. Just it's by being by divide and rule, by attempting to be charming and entertaining, doing his clownish thing, and also just by lying strategically all the time. It's his character. It's not like he's just decided this is how we're going to play it. It's his character, and it's the product of that style of education in many ways. Yeah,
and also he's just very, very, very bold, because he has got away with it all his life.
Yeah,
or his family comes along and just mops up the mess with a big load of money. I mean, who knows how he's managed to get away with it all this time, but rich people usually do, don't they?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I'll just kind of add one thing, and I think there is a great deal of chaos and instability at the moment. I nearly said for a change, but it's nothing new. All my life, politics has been chaos and instability. It isn't anything new, but it does seem particularly intense at the moment, what with a pandemic and all the deleterious consequences of Brexit. And it seems like things are up for grabs. But I think the right is very well prepared for grabbing hold of the chaos and the resentment and the anger and the frustration that the general public are evidently feeling, and to mobilise it in their direction. And it's a very dangerous time. for that reason. And this is happening globally. This kind of thing is happening globally. There are riots in Brazil today.
Trying to get rid of Bolsonaro?
Yeah. Trying to get the government to bring in proper vaccine programme and to impeach Bolsonaro. Yeah. A lot of these right-wing regimes are in peril. But yeah, the right will try and capture this, and it could be very, very disastrous if the feelings that all this is arousing is mobilised by the right, and they are very good at it.
They are very good at it, but I think this time, because of COVID, it's going to make their job an awful lot harder, because generally the right-wing attitude towards the pandemic is to just let the people on the street suffer.
Yeah.
Really, isn't it? Now, it turns out the people on the street don't actually like this very much. Surprise, surprise, right?
Yeah.
So when that right-wing government comes on and say, hey, support us, we're great, we're going to make you suffer even more, isn't that fabulous? It's going to be harder for them to capture them and say, would you want more of the same? Isn't it?
There is a lot of potential for this situation to be grasped and for the associated emotions to be mobilised in the right direction, in the direction of kind of human survival. This is how serious it is. Human survival.
Yeah.
And there are loads and loads and loads of opportunities. My only point here is they have to be seized. The right-wing activists, be assured, are thoroughly on the case and in the business of trying to capture this situation to their advantage.
What sort of indicators do you think we should be looking out for that this is happening?
You need to look for civil unrest. You need to look for irrational protest movements. You need to look at them. You need to actually try and figure out where's the money coming from. Follow the money.
Yeah.
You need to look at the press. You need to look at the right-wing press. And I think having done that, this is how we know that they are coming for Johnson and these near pals. You need to look at what people say, like Nigel Farage, for instance, and you do need to look wider. You need to look at what's happening in France and Australia and so forth. You need to look wider because they are globally organised, the far right, sort of. They have a right international. And you get the picture when you do. You need to look for the big picture to even get your local picture, to be honest with you, because of the talking that they do to each other. This became apparent to me ages ago, but it's underscored very nicely by Peter Georg again in his book Democracy for Sale. Because he shows some of the it's mainly concerned with money in politics in Britain and the corruption that brings about. But it's a story you can't tell without exposing the connections with the US far right and the British far right and the flow of money around the world to institute the project of global fascism, global corporate fascism. And that's where you look. You do need to look a bit big, but you need to look right down in the micro as well, and see what's saying. And it seems to me, that I don't think they've got their ducks in a row exactly, because I think they've took some setbacks. The very fact now that there is instability in the Johnson government in this country, and that there are factions within that government, and the uneasy peace between them it looks as though it's coming to an end. Over things like Ireland, right? You need to see how different factions react to a crisis like the Northern Ireland crisis, or the fact that there have been some civil unrest in Northern Ireland, harking back to the Troubles in the context of the Good Friday Agreement. And these kind of things, you need to look at the fine grain and the big picture at the same time, and then it kind of becomes apparent, that there is basically what I want to say about the situation is it's very dangerous. but it's also full of opportunities. But what we kind of loosely call the left have got to fucking get their skates on.
Well, let's hope that what Dawn Butler's just done is the beginning of the left just starting to lace up the skates. Let's hope.
Yeah, it does have a feeling like that, and I do get the feeling that strategically it was deliberately a strategy, and it's very well played.
Yeah. Well played, Dawn. Well played. And it'd be nice if you're on Twitter, if you want to go and follow Dawn Butler, just to give her some support for what she did, and to just spread the word. That would be great as well. Anyway, I hope everyone found that interesting. We're on our way down the hill now, and we will speak to you soon.
Make knowledge great again.